packaged with the zip file, which will kind of tell us what to do. So right, one of the first things you'll need is everything okay?
Yeah, sorry, it was not showing the right stream on that. So we got that fixed now. Sorry about the issues today.
That's cool.
You're good.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna keep going. So 360Deploy version 2 leverages the new FM data migration tool from FileMaker. It's a command line tool used for migrating data from a production file to a development clone. We'll kind of talk more about that in a little bit. You can get the FileMaker data migration tool from FileMaker. You actually need to subscribe to the FileMaker developer subscription. If you go to this link in the PDF, this talks about this is where you buy it, and it kind of outlines what you get. It's pretty cool, actually. You get a development version of FileMaker Server, which allows you. It's not to be used in production, but you get 3 licenses of FileMaker Server to kind of install and play around with. And then also, of course, you get the FM data migration tool, which is what we're going to be using, what 360Deploy2 uses. So with that said, let's go take a look at the next step. Next thing we need to do, kind of just getting prepared, is we need to install 360Deploy2 on the server where FileMaker Server is running. It runs alongside FileMaker Server. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Got a couple instances set up. So I'm just going to log into my Windows machine here.
And this is FileMaker Server on it?
Mm-hmm. This is a machine that has FileMaker Server on it.
17?
This is 16, actually.
Okay. So it works okay with 16?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it, you know, do you know how far the command line tool, like the FMS admin command line stuff, works going back?
Sure. I mean, the file format hasn't changed since version 12.
Yeah.
So,
and we tested the migration tool with FileMaker 12 files, and it worked fine. That's that's pretty cool. So I'm actually going to do this download again here, but now I'm actually on the server. Let that finish. Yeah, I don't know. I see this happen sometimes. There it goes. It's like the last couple bits or something have problems. And yeah, as you can probably see, I've already downloaded it here, but I did kind of want to show you guys just to be thorough. So this is our new download. We're going to extract this. And I wonder if these disks are just running slow. The download was slow. Anyway, okay. So that was our 360Deploy download. Now we've got our Windows installer. We can run this here, and that's pretty much it. We're going to do a standard installation. Pretty much just use the default options for everything. And it's actually overwriting my old version of 360Deploy, so I already have that installed. Okay, that's pretty much it. It's up and running here. Go ahead and finish out the installer. Now let's go back to our PDF. Let's see what's next. So let's open the 360Deploy file included with the download. That would be this file right here. The credentials are listed here, 360Deploy, 360Deploy. Um, so these are kind of the first things we need to do. Let's capture our license key and registered to values. I've got those stored right here. That'll be registered to 360 works. The post-migration report, that is, it's not required, but it's definitely recommended. After the migration is finished, a report of all of the migrations that have been run will be emailed to the email address you specify here. Pretty handy, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And then earlier we talked about using the FM data migration tool. We're actually going to insert those right here, and we want to put the zip files as they are downloaded from FileMaker. So I've already got those set up here. We can just drag them in. And that's so.
Why are we doing that?
Good question. Why are we doing that? We're inserting the migration tools here because, and they're going to be there. We need the migration tools to actually run the migration. By inserting them here, we're actually going to determine which migration tool is appropriate for your server and upload it to your server, install it on your server, kind of handle all that automatically. So you just put the migration tools here, and 360 Deploy takes care of the rest.
Cool.
And so the next thing is we've got it installed. We've got our configuration set up. The next thing is really setting up our configuration. First thing we'll do is configure our dev location. Dev files can be either you can deploy locally from like a directory, or you can actually specify a server, a development server that hosts your development files you want to deploy from. I want to start things off by deploying from a directory. So I've got some files kind of buried here. So this is the file path where my files are located. Then we actually go ahead and kind of list all the files in that location so that you can pick and choose the development files that you want to deploy. I've selected 2 here, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. This is actually pretty important. It detects that our development files are local, and part of using the FM data migration tool is that you have to have a clone of your development files. And if your dev files are local, the only real way to make a clone of them is to go and file, save a copy as, and then specify a clone. But we can actually do that automatically using a script. So we'll need to copy the 360 Deploy script folder into each development file. We can copy the script folder here, and then it kind of tells us we need to paste this into these 2 files. And this was kind of a nice little feature. We can actually click this button to open the database at that folder path. Open up the script workspace and paste these in. And as you can see, I've been kind of working with these development files, so I already have the scripts pasted. So we can kind of move on, but yeah, we've got these pasted in both files. Then we need to capture the account credentials for the files.
So would that be needed if we were running on the server as opposed to local?
Yeah, the question was, do we need to paste the scripts if we're running from a server? And the answer is no. actually you get to bypass pasting the scripts if you're running from a server. You can actually get FileMaker server to create the clones for you, and kind of bypass this whole scripted clone creation process, which is actually pretty nice. So the next thing is we need to capture the account credentials for all the files. In my case, I'm actually using the same username and password for every file, but if you've got different username and passwords, you can go ahead and enter those here. I'm using the same, so that, and then if your databases are encrypted, if you're using encryption at rest, you can actually store the encryption keys here. My databases are not encrypted, so I can skip that part. And now you can see this is just kind of a simple outline of what our dev location configuration looks like. We've got the path where the dev files are located and a list of the dev files that we're going to deploy. So now we can go ahead and add a production server. This will be a server that we're going to deploy these dev files to. The server cannot be local, obviously, so we're going to go ahead and enter. Actually, wait, that's wrong. I'm just going to grab one of my server IP addresses here. And so this looks a little bit different than the last thing we configured. When you're configuring the dev files, you just select the dev files. You don't need to worry about anything else. But when you're configuring a production server, you need to map the dev files that you want to deploy to the prod files that those files should be deployed to.
Only if the names are different.
If the names are, yeah, sort of. If the names are the same, we actually do auto-populate that for you. But you could go in here and actually change this name, and it would be deployed as the name you specify here. But yeah, the value you put in the prod file field here will dictate what the end prod file is named. So you might have saw this was already populated with second file test. That's actually because I can use this dropdown to get a list of the files hosted on this production server. And as you can see, I've already got second file test. It already lives there. So we kind of already matched that up for you. 360Deploy demo solution doesn't have a current prod file, so I'm going to use this one, 360Deploy demo.
So that file, 360Deploy demo, that's a very similar file that just has a different name that's already on the production server?
Yeah, it is, right? It's an identical file with a different name.
Okay.
Something I set up previously. And then this is kind of the same thing, capturing the account credentials. In this case, I know that my FileMaker accounts are the same as dev, so I can just do that, move on. Encryption keys are same as dev, which is no encryption keys pretty much. And then that's kind of our first production server configured. You can kind of review your configuration details here. I see that we're deploying to the prod server at this IP address. Here is the file mapping that we're going to deploy as. All that's left to do is run the deploy.
Where are these servers physically?
These are EC2 machines in Amazon.
Which region?
East.
Virginia.
Virginia, right? Yeah.
And we're in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So let's hit deploy. Let's see what happens. So first thing that happens is, just are you sure? Are you sure you want it to deploy? Also, we have the option to schedule a deployment here, which I think is pretty nice. You could, if you want the deploy to happen at midnight or something like that.
And we got a question from some people watching online. Can this create a production file if this is a first-time migration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll actually see. You're actually about to see that happen because here. Let me cancel out of this. I'm deploying this second file test. When it's deployed to the server, it'll be named second file test second. Not a great name, but that file, the file second file test second, doesn't already exist on the server. So we're actually just going to take a clone of second file test and immediately upload it, because there's no migration to run in this case. There's no previous file to migrate to. So we're just going to deploy the clone immediately. Okay, let's say okay, and then because our dev files are local, again, this is totally skippable if you're deploying from a dev server. But because they're local, we need to now create clones of each file. So it's gonna kind of automatically do this and flash us up some login screens. We're gonna need to log into each dev file so that clone scripts can be run and the clones can be created.
Could we, I know in 360Deploy 1, you didn't have to do this step if you created an account in the 360Deploy file that matched the account on your dev files. Is that still true?
Yeah, and that's just kind of FileMaker account tricks, you know. If you could also get around this if you if you created accounts in if you created an account in the 360Deploy file that matched the accounts in all your dev files, or vice versa, if you went into your dev files and created like a 360Deploy account that matched this.
So we've got another question here. It says, if the database FileMaker in production do not have a full access account and are encrypted, can you use deploy to?
There is actually a new, let me get this running and I'll kind of speak to that. There is a new type of, there's a new extended privilege. I can't remember the name exactly, but it's called like, deploy or something like that, where you can create a user account that is specifically used for running the migration tool. It doesn't need to have full access. I don't even think it needs to have much other privileges, but that account should work here.
So it doesn't have to be full access. It just has to have that extended privilege.
Yeah, and actually, one more thing. If the dev files are local, it would have to have access to run the clone creating script. But then I think you'd be good. So I kind of talked through the whole deployment here because it's already done. Let's do that again, actually. Okay, so all right, deploy. We're gonna hit OK. It's gonna ask us to log into our files. First thing we do is right now it's creating clones. We need to zip up those clones, upload them to each production server, and then the migrations are run sequentially on the files. And this tool it's so fast. We're already done migrating one file, and now we're done with both. And actually, if I look at my email, I'm getting reports. The first time we ran the deployment, you know, it tells us that we deployed a new clone to the production server by the name second file test second, and this for the other file we were deploying, that file already existed on the server, so the migration was actually run, and you're actually seeing the output from the migration tool here. The second time we ran the deployment, both files already existed on the server, so an actual migration was run. And so I was hoping to the other thing I wanted to do with you guys was actually with 360Deploy 2, you have the ability now to deploy to multiple servers at a time. So I kind of wanted to set up a new add a couple. Add some more production servers and see if we could go ahead and do that. So let's got my host name. Let's set up our file mapping. That should be fine. Go ahead. Oh, this one's got, oh, different order. Let's see. Okay, fine. Yeah, all the account stuff is the same. Oh, that was the wrong username and password for the server.
So each server can have a different username and password.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got two more. Let's get two more in there.
Is there a maximum number of production servers you could upload to?
No, it really depends on the type of license you purchase. If you get the solution bundle license, you can deploy to an unlimited number of servers. You can deploy one solution to an unlimited number of servers. We define one solution as any number of files really. If you've got a multi-file solution, that counts as one solution. I haven't done this one yet. All right, let's do one more. Okay, so if we look at our configuration details.
And so each one of those could have a different IP address, different username and password. You could also have different names for the files if you had different, if like each customer for a solution named different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really cool for vertical market solutions. If you have the same set of development files and you deploy it to a number of different servers, but each server you change the file name to something like that matches your customer's name on that server. 360Deploy can handle all that. All right.
Would that work if you were? Could you create like 5 different configurations for the same server? Like, let's just say you were hosting let's say you had 5 customers for your vertical market solution. This is the example you're showing here is 5 different servers. One customer per server, 5 different servers.
Right.
What if you were hosting this for your 5 customers on your one server? Could you set it up so that there would be 5 different deployments that are all run simultaneously to those installations on that one server that you host?
It would be, we're talking about different sets of files per kind of configuration, right?
You
Yeah, so
you would name
yeah.
each one, my solution _ customer A, my solution _ customer B, C, D, E, but then all on the same server.
Yeah, they wouldn't deploy. All the migrations wouldn't run at the same time. They'd run sequentially, and you'd actually to make that work, you'd have to you might have to set up a couple different configurations. I haven't really tested out that type of configuration yet, but I will. Actually,
There's a question from online as well. What would a user experience if they were working in the production file at the moment of migration?
if they were working in the production file at the moment of migration, the file. The file has to be closed in order to run the migration, so the user would see that. If you've ever been working in a file when it's closed on the server, you get that message. Can you please log out, finish your work? The file is being closed. We can't. Customers can't be looking in the file while the migration is running. And we did it that way for a couple reasons. You know, we thought about potentially like leaving a copy of the file on the production server so that people could still use it, but that causes a couple problems. For one, what if they create records in a file that's going to be essentially tossed away as soon as the migration happens? You know, that's work they'll have to redo. The other reason we didn't do that is because sometimes these files get very big and disk space can be an issue. And if we left a copy hosted on the production server, as well as a copy that we're migrating to, also the dev file, the dev clone, that isn't going to be a clone for much longer. It's getting all of the data from the production file imported into it. Now you've got 3 copies of a potentially very large file on your server. So there is a disk space consideration there that we wanted to be careful about, and so that's why we flat out closed the file. We kind of experimented with the idea of uploading a placeholder file while the migration was running, but as it turns out, the migrations run so fast sometimes that it would take longer to open a placeholder file and close it than the whole migration would take. So you know, it's like you'd be like adding time to your migration simply because you're, you know, opening and closing this placeholder file.
So what happens to the original file after the migration happens?
The original production file is kept on the server. There's a 360Deploy actually keeps it in a folder structure that we don't have this working now, but kind of a future feature we're looking at is the ability to revert to the original production file before the migration happened.
So you can manually do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It wouldn't be difficult. Those files are actually stored. We look in our.
Does the deployment move it to a different folder automatically, or?
It does. It does. We will pull down the production files. Those wind up here, and this is kind of where they stay. This is where the migration happens. The migrated files. This is where the migration files are created after migration. We've actually moved them out, and the files that were here are now hosted in FileMaker server. And then, you know, these are the dev clones that were uploaded originally. So that we're kind of looking at the back end of 360Deploy, but these are where the files are kept, and the original production files you'll find here. So I would like to add the feature where you can kind of just like, if the users aren't happy or something's really broken with the new version that you push up using 360Deploy, you'd have a button that would let you revert the migration you just ran. So all right, I want to see what happens here. Fingers crossed, you guys. All right, so are we sure? I think we're sure. Okay, let's create our dev clones.
And you have to do this
Once per deployment.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, good point. We only need to do it once for each dev file. After that,
So it doesn't matter how many servers would have been.
right. Does not matter. Only one clone. One clone is created and then uploaded to all 6 servers in this case. I think let's give it a second. I think it's just thinking here. It's likely that we're uploading. You know, the plugin is uploading the clone to all 6 servers.
Right.
We're probably seeing a little bit of a hang because of that.
How large is the file?
They're small. They're clones, you know, so they're really as small as your FileMaker file could possibly be. These files, I think, are, you know, a couple hundred kilobytes. They're really small. But all right, we're off. Some of these it looks like are finishing, and we kind of update this list. All right, a couple are completed. We're bouncing around here. All right.
Well, for that.
All right. Let's see what that report looks like. Yeah, so we should have, yep, about 6 servers here.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I kind of wanted to. There are a few features that I'm hoping to have implemented fairly soon. Namely, FileMaker actually added a couple of features to the migration tool. Namely, I think you can specify which file you want to use the value lists from. Whether by default it uses the production files value lists, but now you can tell it to use the development files value lists. I think it does the same with accounts, and I think there's 1 or 2 more, but looking to have those features added soon. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
What's
Well,
the cost?
all right. Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's worth it.
Yes.
So I think the Express license will be what most people are looking for. This allows you to deploy one solution to one server, and again, solution can mean a multi-file solution. So you can deploy a number of files to one production server. The Enterprise license allows users to deploy multiple solutions to one server. So that would be kind of like that configuration. Yeah.
Well, the enterprise license is for one organization.
Right. Okay. Right.
But it's multiple solutions to one organization. So if you have 8 different solutions for different departments, the enterprise solution that we deploy all 8 of them.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the solution bundle license is I think you're getting the most bang for your buck. This allows you to deploy a single solution to any number of FileMaker servers, kind of like what we just saw here, where we deploy to 6 servers at once.
And the portfolio license, that includes the Express license, or the enterprise license.
I'm not sure.
Enterprise.
Okay,
Okay.
we should make that clear on that.
Yeah.
We took too much time off.
See that? So you can migrate accounts when you deploy from dev to production?
Yeah, okay, here we go. You can, yeah, you can, right, so you can create accounts in your development file. I have a feeling a lot of people won't use that
Yeah.
because it seems like, I think it'd be better to maintain the accounts that you're
Right.
using in your production file and have those pulled into the development
Same
file.
with the value.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So that's how, so currently the way it works is that it preserves your value lists and your accounts from production.
yes, yeah.
And you're talking about adding an option to keep value lists and the accounts from one.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
it's just not a bad option to give people, but it probably, like you said, I agree with you. It's the most common use case would be keep the stuff from production.
Yeah, I kind of just want to be thorough about,
Yeah.
that we're doing everything the migration tool can.
That was a common question that people ask with the 360 version 1.
Yeah.
How do I get all my accounts? How do I preserve all my accounts in production? So it sounds like the data migration tool.
Yeah, which is really nice. And I don't think we've talked about setting next serial numbers at all yet because the migration tool just handles that for you.
Is there a license for developers to deploy to multiple solutions to different clients to buy, just like to use for a developer to purchase to use with clients?
No, we don't have that for any of our clients.
Yeah.
I mean, just in general, we just wouldn't sell many copies of our plugins, you know, if we had a license like that. So yeah, we do have all sorts of like commission programs and reseller programs and referral programs to encourage developers to buy stuff on behalf of their clients. But we don't, just in general, across the board for all of our products, we don't have somewhere you as a developer buy them and deploy it.
So what would the recommended licensing strategy be then to focus?
I think in most cases, for most clients, if you have 12 clients that you build a single solution for, and you want to easily be able to deploy to all 12 of those, you would buy 12 express licenses, one for each client, and you would probably want to contact us to get a reseller commission on that, so you're making money on each one of the sales of those 12 express commissions.
So you mentioned setting up serial numbers. Do you have maybe a series to methods on your website? So I'm looking at the FileMaker migration tool, what that does compared to 360Deploy.
Yeah, I think we have something like that. I got an email about that
If you go to your
earlier.
website, 360Deploy landing page, or there's something there.
Yeah.
Halfway down the page.
Oh, what a beautiful chart. Beautiful chart. What is that?
There we go.
Okay, so, that's all.
So as you can see, you know, there's one column that looks a little bit heavier than the other two.
We didn't see, I don't think we saw the schedule.
Yeah, sure. All right, yeah, let's do this again. So okay, so if we want to schedule, let's do this. Say let's just do it for like 3 minutes. 3 minutes from now, yeah.
Let's do that.
1 minute. Yeah, 7:43. Okay. All right, and so yeah, the next part of the scheduling is we need to, we're going to go ahead and create our clones first, and those will just sort of hang out until the deployment runs, but that is an important part.
So the clones get created immediately and then get deployed at the scheduled time.
Yeah, right, and that's, yeah. Yeah, I need to add something here because we're not really expressing like how much time there is until the deployment takes place. But yeah, I wanted to create the clones now, especially if the dev files are local, because we don't want to like wait till midnight and then like pop up a dialog saying like, hey, log into your dev file, you know.
Or something could have changed too, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Right. You deploying the version. It should. You know, I may need to up the interval on my on timer script here. Let's give it till okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, now you can see it's going.
Yeah. I picked a 30-second on timer interval.
Okay, so it's kind of plus or minus 30 seconds.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's tolerable.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a timed deployment, you have to have FileMaker Pro open.
Yes, you will. Yeah, it was that faster?
Yeah,
this
that
one
was
time?
so quick.
Cool.
Yeah.
This is neat.
I've had a ton of fun working on this. It's been just, it's been a blast, really.
It's kind of a short meeting, but I mean, There it is.
This is me with the classes deployed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice job.
Yeah. Any questions from anybody on the screen?
We had a couple questions during the presentation. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions, type them in now. Does anyone here have any questions?
You have to install deploy on the development server if you're running from server, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
making sure.
Right. Deploy will need to be if you're deploying from a development server, it needs to be installed there as well.
When you schedule it, is it based on your local time?
Yeah, it's going to be based on the time wherever the 360 deploy file is running. So you'll have to leave this computer up and running, and it's gonna it's just going to go by the clock on that computer.
So you have to tell all your clients to close their files before they go home, all over the country.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
no, it'll force them out.
It
Will
will.
it do it?
Yeah.
A forced close?
Yeah, won't it?
I think so. I mean, it closes. It issues a close command to the server.
Right, and
Which-
it'll give it like a 2-minute timeout.
Yeah.
Like that, and a message. So they'll be knocked off the server.
Okay,
when it
so
runs.
close.
If it's doing the close, can you specify the warning time that they get to close the files?
Not yet, but we could probably add like a some sort of context XML parameter.
Those late night workers.
Take a break.
That would be nice if you could specify a time and the message.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That'd be good to send those out.
Yeah.
There's a question about containers here. How does it handle container data?
If the containers are, it kind of there's a couple of parts to that question. If the containers are internally stored, everything should work fine. If the containers are externally stored on the production server, everything should be fine there too, because we actually after the migration is run, we put the production file back where it originally was. So all of those externally stored container file paths should resolve correctly.
So nothing actually
and be
happens.
fine.
Yes, it doesn't get duplicated or imported or moved or anything. It just stays where it is.
Yeah. One thing that we're still kind of testing is what if your production file has internally stored containers, but in your dev file you switch that container field to be externally stored. I have a feeling that would go very poorly right now. So we're still trying to kind of figure out all of the possibilities there and handle them appropriately.
This question, and does it work with super container as well?
Oh sure, yeah. Super container, that's how your containers should be stored. Yeah. Super container is great because instead of having this binary file, you've got a text field that contains a URL, and that is that we're not going to have any problems migrating that.
So it'll still point to the same URL that it pointed to before.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right on.
Get home early tonight.
So even though we can't get a speaker, should we still do a new FileMaker rollout presentation next month?
I think that would be a good topic for us to cover. Now, the other thing related to that is the dates. Our normal meeting time is the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern. But next month's first Wednesday is July 4th. It's a holiday. So no one wants to come and do things then because we're all going to have parties and
We'll
beer
be
to drink and
barbecuing.
barbecuing. Exactly. So what do you guys think? Should we push this off a week to the 11th?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do it on the second Wednesday of July instead of the first
So it'll be
Wednesday.
11.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, and then yeah, I think a good topic that everyone's going to want to see is what's new in FileMaker 17.
Should we make that like a group presentation, or should we want to see if somebody would want? Do you want to present on that?
It's been a while since I've done a presentation. I could do that one. I got a month. Yeah, maybe I
I
can.
wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I was honestly asking if you wanted to do it.
Yeah, maybe. Is there someone who's super dying to do that? Is anyone really interested in that?
We can certainly spend 5 or 10 minutes talking about the results of this benchmark that we're doing.
I definitely want to hear that performance differences between 16 and 17.
Yeah, maybe if a few other people wanted to pick like a particular 17 topic, then you could kind of like fill in the rest. Do you want to do that? You want to kind of like lead it, and then other people can chime in certain areas, or would you rather just kind of like do the whole thing?
I think if someone's going to present on 17, it'll be easier
Okay.
to have one person
Okay.
cover the new features.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of changing around.
Yeah.
Jumping around between people.
Okay.
Yeah, I could probably do that next time. Or maybe I can wrangle someone else with one of the new people here to talk about some new things. Okay, well, yeah, so next time we'll do FileMaker 17 new features, plus performance benchmarks
differences
between server 16 and 17.
After that's DevCon.
Yeah, and then when is
August 6th.
so yeah, our next meeting in August will be the week before DevCon.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we can still do that one.
Okay.
But I'm sure we'll have some other topics at that time. I had some people with some suggestions too. So people watching online too, if you have some suggestions of things that you're interested, please put them in chat, or you can send me an email. It's david@bluefeathergroup.com. We're always looking for new topics and presenters as well. I think that's it. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night.